Hi everybody, it's Jamie Geller. Welcome back to the Shabbat Show. It's my favorite time of week because it's almost Shabbat. So first things first, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Please tell us where you're watching from. Say hey, say Shabbat Shalom. We love, love, love hearing from you. And so to that end, I'm going to be answering one of the most popular questions from last week's recipe. So let's go ahead and roll tape and then I'll come back and answer your cues. All right, so to me, that looked amazing because I'm obsessed with challah and obsessed with pumpkins. But I know not everyone is. So if you don't like pumpkins, okay, and if or you don't have pumpkins, a little cute little gourd for the middle of that challah, here's a great tip. Take your favorite challah recipe and then take a glass, like this is a glass nesting bowl, Pyrex bowl, something that's oven proof, and make that braided round shape around this bowl upside down. Bake it like this. Take it out. Once it's cool, turn this over, fill it with your favorite dip, fill it with flavored oil. I mean, you could fill it with fresh cut flowers. It will be an absolutely beautiful centerpiece fit for your taste buds. So that is the cue. Please always, that is the A to your cue. Please always post your questions below. We love hearing from you, and we're here to answer anything and everything you might want to know about cooking and, of course, Shabbat. So stay tuned now for the most amazing Shabbat show in the world. I'll be back at the end of the show, so you want to keep watching the whole way through because I'm going to tell you a little story about when hubby and I were first married. Shabbat Shalom. See you soon.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Shabbat Show. Thanks so much for joining us. It is so good to be back with you again. It's so good to be here on almost Shabbat. You know, in the old days, and I mean like the old days, I mean like 2 weeks ago, we used to do this on Friday afternoon, and it was like literally right before. And I don't know, part of me misses those days of like that feeling of 5:30 on Friday afternoon with like the challah, sort of like the smell going through the house. But this Thursday night thing I find to be also really exciting because like now we're into the Shabbat mode. Like, hey, we have like a couple more hours because it's only Thursday night, but whatever you're tuning in. But this is it. We're beginning the end of the week. It's great to be back with you again another week. We've got a very important show coming up for you right now. The show on marriage, the show your spouse wants you to watch. And marriage is a big deal, obviously. But for those of you who aren't married, this show is still very relevant because marriage is a relationship. Relationships are everywhere. It's in everything we do and everything we engage in. It's a relationship. Marriage just happens to be maybe the most intense relationship. And we are living in a time where that relationship is really pushed in incredible ways. We're going through a period of time that many of us have never had anything close to this in our lives. And that puts stress on everything, including our marriages. And what we're going to talk about today on the show is secrets from real experts that have been in the field, that have incredible experience, that have studied from the greats on how to build relationships with everybody around us, and in particular, how to build stronger relationships with our spouses. And so it is an exciting show, an important show, a critical show for everyone in life, regardless of your marital status, the status of your age, or whoever and however many people are around you. Because at the end of the day, the quality of our lives are dictated based on the quality of our relationships. You could have everything going for you, but if your relationships are stressed, you feel it at a very deep level. And the converse. You can have stuff happening in your life that's challenging, but if your relationships are strong, it just feels very different. So stick with us throughout the entire show, and hopefully we'll gain and grow together. Excited to be with you. Thanks so much for tuning in. A lot going on this week in the world of Project Inspire. Check out MindFlex this week. New MindFlex program going on. Check out the ad here. Debbie Greenblatt, an incredible educator. She's going to be talking about how to love Jews who are trying not to hate. How to love Jews you are trying not to hate. What an incredible topic, especially now with what's going on. So check that out, the MindFlex program. Of course, we've got Deep Dive as well coming up this week. The Deep Dive program. Love your neighbor as yourself. Is it really possible? See what's going on over here? Where this is all about love and relationship. This is like this zone that we're in right now, getting back together with everyone around us. So check that out. A lot going on. If you missed this, just go to projectinspire.com and it's all there. This show is dedicated in merit for the full recovery of Rafal Avraham Yitzchak HaKohen Ben Gittel. He's been to Project Inspire conventions, and his son is a very active leader in Toronto. Refuah Shlema to him. I also want to give a Refuah Shlema to another individual who is out there who needs a Refuah Shlema. Her name is Rebbitzin Weisbord, Aviva Bas Shana Chaya. She should have a full Refuah Shlema as well. Okay, we got a great show coming up. Stick with us. I know this is a very busy night, but we appreciate you being here. Stick with us to the end. So much going on. We got Kahoot, of course. What will we do with that? A little bit of competition. Tamar Livingstone from Baltimore is on. Ilana and Jamie Cowland from Jerusalem is on. Rabbi Dr. Ari Sittner is going to be on. Jamie Geller, of course. We got videos and inspiration. We got a lot going on. And we've got one more thing I want to talk to you beforehand is the Taste of Shabbat. The Taste of Shabbat program is coming up this week as well. So check that out. It should be incredible. And of course, shout outs. Please feel free to go to my Facebook page, to go to the Zoom. Just give me a shout out over here. We'd love to spend Shabbat Shalom, to say Shabbat Shalom to you. This is our time where we can do this for each other. And just sometimes just being able to see where we go is awesome. I had somebody came to the show for the first time a few weeks ago. I think it was the Baltimore crew that came on. And afterwards he said to me, like, the part that he loved most, which so do I in a way. Yes, thank God everything was great and the interviews and the whole deal. He goes, but the fact that you wish somebody Shabbat Shalom from like across the globe. I'm like, he's like, when do we ever see that? And I'm like, here. That's the beauty of our people. So please feel free to wish us a Shabbat Shalom so we can make sure to wish you one back and just sort of continue to show everyone who's watching that we are one global nation that sticks together and is together. And if those who want to watch the show after this, or if there's someone out there that you think should be watching the show even now, send them shabbatshow.com, shabbatshow.com. And many times when we check it out for the interviews, we're cutting clips of a longer interview that we get to do. So the full interview is usually posted after the show. So check that out as well. And of course, for those who want one-on-ones, 97 text one-on-one to 97,000. One of the highlights of my week was a wonderful woman who emailed me this week and said that she heard about one-on-ones from the show, and we connected her. And she has this great study partner, and she's so inspired and she loves it. And I'm like, it's all worth it for that. So one-on-one to 97,000. Okay, let's begin. Rabbi E.T.L. Goldwich is an incredible, incredible rabbi. He is out in East Jerusalem, inspiring the world. And he has a great video about a little bit of advice that his father gave him at his wedding. Check this out.
I'll never forget when my father told me moments before I walked down the aisle to get married. You know that moment between father and son? My father pulls me aside and tells me, This is what my rabbi said to me before I got married. For the first 10 years, any argument you have with your wife, she's right. I'm thinking, oh great. But then my father told me, until now, you've been an individual, naturally looking out for yourself. You want to be happy, successful. But now you're getting married and you need to look out for someone else. But your natural inclination is still to focus on yourself. How do you juggle that with looking out for your wife? My father gave me a very wise answer. He said, you keep looking out for yourself. But today, the you that you're looking out for is expanding. From today, yourself includes your wife. If she's feeling happy, you'll feel happy. If someone insulted her, he insulted you. And it doesn't stop there. One day you'll have children, and your you will expand even more. Your biggest joy in life will be when your kids are happy. And when your kids are in pain, you'll be in pain. And it doesn't stop there. Yourself should continue to expand to include your family and close friends, to the entire Jewish people and eventually the world. If someone starts up with a Jew anywhere in the world, he's starting up with you. If an Israeli soldier saves a life, you feel a personal sense of pride and happiness. Today, who you are is going to expand. You know, this is the secret of our victory over Haman on Purim. On Purim, we give mishloach manot, care packages, not to the needy, but to our friends. Yeah, we also read Megillat Esther, give charity to the poor, and have a festive meal. But Purim is the only holiday that we give out packages to our friends. Why? When Queen Esther discovered that Haman was planning to destroy the entire Jewish people, she called Mordechai and told him, go gather all the Jews together. She knew that the only way we could overcome Haman is if we all come together. The secret to our survival is in our unity. This is why on Purim we give out packages to our neighbors and friends to increase the love between one another. Today, we're facing similar challenges. There are many Hamans who desire to destroy us. The only way we could prevail is by uniting together as one family. We can attain true unity when we realize that the entire Jewish people are just an extension of me. When we expand ourselves to include all Jews as our brothers and sisters. This Purim, in addition to giving a care package to our friends, let's take on the challenge of preparing one mishloach manot for someone we would normally not give to. Someone who may think or dress not exactly like me, but who is still my brother and sister. Let's expand and unite, and together we'll be able to withstand any threat that comes our way. Purim Sameach.
That was an incredible video, not just for the time of Purim. Really, I find this to be such an incredible bit of insight. And one of the things that we're going to get this show, and I hope you stick to the end, are these nuggets that we can literally put in our pockets and hold on for good. And one of this, what's really important, besides just say, yeah, your wife is right. Like that's just like a great nugget in life, but that's a whole nother story. I'll tell you my story about that another time, not for now. Maybe one day I'll be the interviewee on this thing and I can give you some of that stuff, but that not for now. One of the most important things is the recognition that being selfless may be hard. Judaism doesn't say be selfless. You notice the nuance, the brilliance. God says, don't be selfless. Expand self. You expands through life. There's a line that we say in Pirkei Avot, Im ein ani li mi li, if I'm not for myself, who am I for? But if I'm only me, then ma'ani, what am I? The concept in Judaism is not that we leave self, not that I'm supposed to disregard myself, I'm supposed to expand myself. Think about that. The expansion of me to include my spouse, to my children, to my friends. As I expand bigger, I am not less, I am more. And I get to be self-interested at the same time, but my definition is totally changed. It's such an incredible approach. And thank you, Rabbi, for sharing that with us. A couple of shots before we get to our first guest. Of course, to Josephine from Phoenix, Arizona, Shabbat Shalom. To Leah Pearl, New York City, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to Denver Aish of the Rockies, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to Toronto, to RM in Toronto. I'm looking at Goldie and Jerry Tauber of Ballackinwood. That is Jamie's mom. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. Thanks for what you do in Nachas. Eliza Mervis Shabbat shalom to you and the whole Mervis family in Silver Spring, Maryland. Shabbat shalom to Lisa in Pomona. To Shabbat shalom to the Silvers in Highland Park. Okay, here goes. First guest is Alana and Jamie Cowland. Alana Cowland is the director of women's education at Aish Torah Jerusalem. Jamie is the founder and CEO of Justify. Together, they run seminars on relationships, dating, and marriage online and in person, and have a popular Instagram page called Ilana with an I, Ilana and Jamie. I had a chance to catch up with them there in Jerusalem. I had a chance to catch up with them early this week to speak about some of these issues, especially with regarding to COVID and what's going on. And I really found the interview very, very interesting. Check this out. You know, we're living in an incredible time because, you know, Corona, this whole COVID thing has created this synthetic world. And when you're a married couple and you're living in the normal world, like, you know, in the old days, like February, you went, you traveled, you were home a little bit, you went to work, and then all of a sudden, like, it all shut down. So for a marriage, you go from seeing your spouse, maybe if you're lucky, for dinner during the week, like, you know, at night, how you doing, to like, this is what we do. In your experience, what have you seen how this has impacted marriages, and what are some of the things that you're getting from this new reality that we're in?
Well, I think if I can just say, I mean, I think the first thing to realize is that, you know, our coping mechanisms have all been like knocked out of whack. Marriages, relationships with children, relationships with self, they're all built around some kind of a structure, some kind of a day, right?
The best kept mechanism for a child's called school.
Right. No joke. No joke.
And social interactions, right? So I think everyone's struggling because we've had to kind of relearn how to deal with our 24 hours in a completely different way. And so there's an element of relearning marriages. It doesn't necessarily mean there's anything wrong that you find this stressful. You know, there's nothing wrong with you just because it's crazy and everything's out of whack.
And I think people put themselves under a lot of pressure to be like, oh, it's great. We've been home so much with the family. It's been so wonderful. You know, but the truth's coming out now. It's been a long time. You know?
Yeah.
Usually when something really huge hits, it tends to hit one person at a time. You know, a woman's had a baby, that's a huge adjustment, hormonal, sleep, body, all the rest of it. A man's lost his job, that's a huge adjustment. We know that when couples experience something really together, that puts a lot more strain because the supporting partner's going through it too. They're not able to do that seesaw, you know, I'll be there for you while you're going through your
So like when Alana's has been up all night with the baby, so that I'll go do the groceries. I know how to support her in that way, right? But when I'm getting smashed to pieces, I don't want to go get no groceries, right? She doesn't. So Corona has just smashed everyone from every side, and your kids, if you have them at home, are going through all kinds of crazy as well. So you don't have the support mechanism of one person saying, okay, I'll be strong in the moment. Because both of you are saying, like, could someone be strong for me, please? Like, I'm dying over here. Yeah. And I think that's, you know, one of the really important practical things is you've got to figure out your own self-care because of that. Because the relationships can really unravel for technical reasons, not because there's not actual love. I think people could kind of wake up at the end of this whole process and be like, we grew apart through this, and I don't know how that happened because I genuinely care about you. Like, you weren't irritating me particularly. It wasn't particularly, but I was just going through so much of my own stuff, and I changed, right? So I think it's really important to kind of be aware of all of the different aspects of this. Not so much from a negative. It could be true in the positive as well, as you can figure out amazingly positive ways to kind of push through this. But I think it's super important to understand that we're under pressure, and it's a different type of pressure, and we don't know necessarily intuitively how to deal with it because we're under such a like, I'm having anxiety, I'm supposed to help you with your anxiety, like I don't even know where I am, right?
What are some of the most practical ways we can adjust this? So what are some practical tools we can put into place today to really help us through this?
Okay, so we're gonna share two things that we think is very important. One is a mindset. And the other one is like a tool to achieve the mindset, you know? And it's not just true of COVID, by the way. I think it's true anytime a couple are experiencing, you know, like a head-on issue where they're both reeling. That could be, you know, a child who's really causing you difficulties. That could be a health issue in the family. Whenever the couple are going through it together, what tends to happen again is like, you know, I really need your support, but you're reeling, so you can't give me support. So what happens is this thing that's outside of us ends up being the enemy that's coming between us. So it's like, it's COVID is against our marriage. And what you have to do is you have to do a spin around, where instead of COVID being against the marriage, it's the marriage against COVID. It's like, hold on a second, there's this outside thing that's trying to get us. Like, let's not allow that to break us up. Let's recognize that we have to team up so that we can together resist, and have resilience against this intrusion into our shalom bias, into our lives right now. And just in terms of the practical, again, when I'm hurting, I have a very strong expectation that the people around me will support me. Okay, so I kind of want you to know what I need. I kind of want you to give me what I need. I kind of want you to take care of me. And it's exactly the opposite of that. You're in that space too. You need a ton from me. I'm busy waiting for you to give. You're busy waiting for me to give. You're on your worst behavior because you're watching too many Netflix. I'm on my worst behavior because I haven't cleaned up in 5 days because I'm done. I've had enough, and whatever. And we are all really kind of disappointed with each other. And there's a big reframe that needs to happen. And I think the reframe begins with, okay, hold on. First of all, a little bit of slack, please, everybody. Just cut everybody a little bit of slack. It's okay if we have pizza again, just chill, And more than that, if you're okay and if I'm okay, we're going to be able to support each other. So stop waiting for this other person to perform and ask the question, what can I do for you? How can I be understanding of your anxiety, your stress? How can I communicate? And we can talk about this instead of demanding quietly and passively of the other person what they're not able to offer. Let's play a supportive role. We both need help. I want to be there for you, and I want you to be there for me. So look at each other,
right? And there's a very powerful story. It's these are counterintuitive points, but that's why they work, because it's real. It's not societal. This is real, and that is that there's a focus on giving and there's a focus on taking. And the bizarre thing about how soul works, about how life works, about reality, is that giving is, when you give to another, that really gives you what you needed in the first place. But when you take instead of giving, it doesn't fill you up either, right? So even though I'm under pressure and you're under pressure, I've got anxiety and I have to help you with your anxiety or whatever it is, right? The truth is, the practical step is even though I feel like I don't have what it takes to give, right? Giving is what's going to give me back my energy. Get yourself into that mindset and be focused on that. There's a beautiful story they say in the name of I believe the Lubavitcher Rebbe, but it could be from somebody else. I don't remember 100%. That he got a letter from a man, and the man was saying, my life is great, everything's great. I have parnassa, I have this, I have that. But I'm feeling really sad, and I'm feeling unfulfilled, and I don't feel like my kids love me, and I don't feel that that I'm really respected in my community, and I this and I that, and I this and I that, and I this and I that. And the Rebbe sent back, and every time he'd put the word I, he'd circled it. That's right. And he said, somebody else, not just yourself, right? And you'll feel better, and that's how you'll feel better. Yeah. So I think that's really, how to grow in love at the time of Corona. It's acceptance and the recognition of the fact that we're all struggling, us and the whole world. It's this idea of linking arms in the marriage and fighting Corona, getting that out, taking care of your family, being in a place of giving, and understanding that's actually what's going to give you kind of the healthy vibe and feeling that you need for yourself. Those are the kind of, especially on the needs of the spouse.
And I think we all know that moment where we're having this crazy busy life, and somebody looks at us and says are you okay? How are you? Can I be there for you? And you just suddenly realize whoa, yeah.
Right, someone cares. Right.
Let's do that for each other. Take half an hour in your day where I know you're busy, I know you're stressed, but look at the other person and say, it's tough for you, honey, too. What can I do for you? Just offer it on me. Let's share this. Let's do this together.
I totally agree with that. And I think what's really powerful here, and this is something that we're going to see throughout the show, and it really opened with Rabbi Goldwich, but it really continues on if you think through this, which is, as you expand self, the person next to you really becomes a piece of you. And so the giving to that person is what gets your energy. Well, this makes sense in my own self, right? If my right arm is struggling and I can have my left arm lifted up, it'll only work, right? There's no way in our own bodies we don't just move over resources to support other aspects of who we are, because it's us. when you see the person in front of you as separate from you, and like they said earlier, which I thought was such a great line, which is you're just like waiting for them to perform, like what's going on? Like, this is what you do all day? Or how come you did it this way? Or I would never have done it like that. And now that we are more connected and both of us are struggling now, there's no time for one to have and one not to have. We're living in a very crazy time of uncertainty at every level, politically, health, financial. Like, this is a crazy time. The person who's with you, child, friend, spouse, it's a piece of you. And the counterintuitive, awesome advice is if I give to them emotional support, physical help, that's where I'm going to get my energy from so that I can get there as well. That's really how we do it. And it's an incredible approach. I want to just give a couple more shout outs from my Facebook page. To Michael Weingart from Germany, Shabbat Shalom. Rana Adler from Fairlawn, Shabbat Shalom. To the Popels in Miami, Shabbat Shalom. Tanya Garber from London. Maria Simon, Shabbat Shalom. Emily Howard for Tallahassee. And a special shout out for my good friend Joshua Schwalbe, who I see has joined us as well. An old good friend of mine. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Okay, so sometimes in life, you know, you have marital disputes about really important things. Sometimes it's a little different, and you may need some outside help. Check out this video that we found about a very interesting marital dispute that we found, and a fascinating person to come in and actually save the day and solve the issue. Check this out.
Hi, welcome to the Marriage Ref. I'm Tom Papa. Tonight we're going to watch real couples in the middle of real life arguments, and we're going to give them the two things they really want: a winner and a loser.
3 years ago, a friend of mine said, Pam, have I got a guy for you? First date was at a synagogue on a Friday night, and I just knew, wow, I really love him. And
the rest is history. I keep my sewing kits, razors, dental kits, shoe polish, sponge. Our kids will need it. Our family will need it. Yes, I have to think for the future for all of us, Bubala.
I think I'm ready to make the call. Let's go to Fairlawn, New Jersey, and bring up the actual Cohens in their real-life soap warehouse.
oh no.
Baskets.
Hey guys, thanks for being on our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right, here's my call. It was a little bit of a split decision here. There are some people that think you're going a little too far. Some people that are thinking that maybe you're not going far enough. I like what Jason said. His feeling is that the stockpiling's a bit too much, and maybe you should be spreading it out like Robin Hood.
Thank you.
No way. I think, sincerely, I think Jason has a really good point.
Sam, listen to me.
Yeah.
Pretend,
Yes, sir.
Go with me on this. We're in synagogue. The rabbi says there's a building fund. We're looking for donations. We need soap and shampoo. Sam raises his hand and goes, you're going to be the big shot. You're going to stand up and go, son of a gun, I've got soap and shampoo. Get them to the homeless shelters. Give them to the kids. Spread them out. Whatever you need to do. Share the wealth, Sam. Share the wealth.
All right.
I share the wealth.
I will do that for you.
All right. He'll do it. Everybody, a big, nice goodbye to the Cohens.
I love that. It reminds me of my grandmother. God, she should rest in peace. I don't know anyone else who comes from Holocaust surviving parents and grandparents and had a very similar mentality, but you got to always figure it out. A couple more Shabbat Shaloms before we get to the next great guest, to Lily Tripp from Montreal, Quebec. Shabbat Shalom. Rivka Tyler, of course, from Baltimore. Shabbat Shalom to you. Miriam Daba from New Jersey. Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom to Batsheva. Shabbat Shalom to the Ben Gigi family. Thank you so much. I hope I got that right. Shabbat Shalom to you. To Linda Leland, Shabbat Shalom to you. To the Hess family, Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Okay, our next guest is an incredible guy, Rabbi Dr. Ari Sittner. is a passionate marriage therapist, licensed clinical social worker, author, inspirational speaker, rabbi, and proud kidney donor. He's a graduate professor of social work and the director of leadership and community development at Shiva University. Ari provides trauma intervention nationally in the wake of tragic mass shootings and speaks extensively about compassion, love, kindness, and marriage, sharing his unique doctoral research on marital relationships. Ari is the author of The Kidneys Donor's Journey. He lives in New Jersey with his wife of 20 plus years and their 4 children. I had a chance to catch up with Ari earlier this week and check out this interview. So Ari, thank you so much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
So, you know, when you think about marriage, many times marriage is a very operational feel, right? It's like you get into this marriage and then before you realize, you're dating, fine. But then at some point, like you wake up and you got like a life to run, right? There are kids, there are carpools, there's payments, there's schedules. And many times a marriage sort of becomes sort of like an operational partnership. How does one, first of all, do you agree with that? And how does one get past that?
Yeah, I think that, we tend to focus on the excitement of the startup, like the launch is so exciting. And there's the dating and the marriage and the wedding and all that wonderful stuff. But at the end of the day, we're going to have a lot of responsibilities. And so with that, when a couple hits their stride, and if they could manage to juggle with all the balls in the air and just sort of like hold their breath and hope that they're not dropping, like, forget one kid at school and carpool that they accidentally left behind, right? If we call that, hey, that was a good day. And if we just think of that as the goal, what starts to happen is we create a reality where it's just a matter of survival. And survival is going to be the enemy here, because we don't want a marriage that's quote unquote fine, because research on that shows that that's actually going to send you to a decline. That marriage is eroding, and you've got to constantly fuel it and pump it with positive energy so that it's always on the ascent in the same way that it first launched. And the pressures are so immense. So if you could, again, keep your head above water and you could say we're doing fine, most people would consider that a success. But there's a fabulous researcher named Dr. Shirley Glass who worked with couples in the aftermath of an infidelity and realized so many of those couples were coming forward having previously reported it. Well, my marriage was fine. Right. And that was where we realized that fine is actually a high risk category because you're on cruise control. When you're at cruise control is when you're likely to fall asleep at the wheel.
Wow. So now how do we go forward then? So what's the next step? How does one go from fine to the next level?
Okay. So this is going back to basics. And I think as a couples therapist, I see this every day. Too often, people focus on conflict as the beginning, middle, and end of a good relationship. And historically, you'd go to couples therapy because, we're always fighting with each other. So if a couples therapist teaches you how to fight better, does that mean you actually like each other? Not necessarily. Look, I don't fight with my mailman, but it doesn't mean I want to spend time with him. Right. So conflict isn't necessarily correlated with having happiness. The question is, what's the quality of the friendship? How do we create an environment where it's like, I want to spend time with you? Like some people say, I love my spouse. I just don't always like them so much. Like I'd give them and take a bullet for them or give them my kidney. But, if I had to go grocery shopping with them, I'd shoot myself. Like I can't handle spending time with them. Well, that's a problem, right? Because this is a person you've chosen to spend your life with. And we want to make sure that there's that fun, that positivity that's going to fuel everything else that's necessary to make it a happy marriage.
What's the mentality for how to get there?
Okay. How do you build emotional intimacy in a marriage? So I'm going to give you two perspectives, 2 techniques. And this is based on the brilliant research of what I would only call my Rebbe in this field, Dr. John Gottman, who is the world's expert. And please check out, his books, his talks on YouTube. He's just the go-to when it comes to relationships. And so he trained me as a couples therapist to be able to do this kind of work and say, all right, if you want to feel positive vibes toward your spouse, so you got to start with yourself. In other words, it's one thing to say, I tell my partner, tell my wife, I love you, right? Does that build intimacy? Yes, but it doesn't start there, because if you don't really feel it, then those are just words. And people know the difference, right? You could read your partner like, with your eyes closed, when they're serious and when they're not, when they mean it, when they're just giving you lip service. So the first step is actually internally. What I want to do is the following, and I want to encourage everyone actually to do this exercise after you're finished watching this video. I want you to think of a positive quality that you see in your spouse. It could be something that's like a 10, something that's amazing, or it could just be something that's like great, my partner's really reliable. You could be talking about your Camry, or you can be talking about your partner, but those are still things that you appreciate about them. And so if you could just capture a quality, start with that. The next step is to just ponder it. So what I'm going to ask you to do is close your eyes and just meditate on it. Just think about your partner. Picture them embodying that quality, engendering it at any given moment, right? Maybe they're a great parent, maybe they're a good friend, they have a big heart, they're generous. Just picture it, feel it. Now, what I want you to do is let it fill your body. Notice the feeling. What is coming up for you when you can let that permeate, that I am with somebody who is kind? And if they weren't, how much emptier would my life feel? So we're letting it fill those cracks within us and just say, wow, I am so blessed. I am so lucky to be with someone so special. And as we let it fill up, the next thing to do is to go to part 2, which is turn to your partner and just make eye contact. Just hold their gaze for just a few moments and share with them, something I appreciate or cherish about you is that you are, and fill in the blank. Something I cherish is that you're kind. And then give an example. For example, that time when you took your groceries and you went over to a homeless person and you handed it over to them, and I was so blown away by that. And talk about the feeling. When I think about that, it makes me feel warm. It makes me feel blessed. It makes me feel ecstatic. Share the emotion. And when the partner hears that, receives that, the key is not just to go, okay, but you build emotional intimacy by taking it up a notch and saying, wow, that was really beautiful to hear. That makes me feel loved, appreciated, cared for. So this is like the reverse side of what conflict does, right? In criticism and attacking somebody and being defensive and not really listening to each other, we kind of escalate things in a negative way. Here, we want to escalate positivity. And Dr. Gottman found that successful relationships have a ratio, ready for this, Charlie? 20-1 of positive to negative.
Wow.
So could you imagine if you do one negative thing at home, you got to come with 20 positive. You know how hard it is to say 20 positive things? But successful couples organically are just saying things like, oh, you look really nice, or dinner was great, or, thank you for listening to me. I appreciate your help. Just those little things, they become an organic part of the environment. So yeah, am I juggling carpools and handling a lot of transactional kind of components to life? Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I have to lose the emotional part. So that's a perfect exercise that anyone can practice, first internally and then share it. And then you switch roles, right? And then partner 2 will go back to partner 1 and share. And we just create these really magical moments. And what's awesome is if you think about couples who are struggling. So Dr. Gottman observed them as well in this laboratory setting, and he watched them and said, you know what? Even those who were struggling had a 1-to-1 ratio in the middle of a fight. So they may have been like blasting each other and still saying, oh, but you look really nice today, or thanks for your help with the kids. And you would, an outsider would listen to them and say, wow, that's kind of nice. Even in the middle of a fight, you said something good. Those couples, they're going to really make it. Those 1-to-1 couples are the ones who ended up divorced. And what that tells us, even in a fight, the positive couples, while fighting, had a 5-to-1 ratio. So when we think about what's the fuel that's going to take a relationship and really help it soar, it's like putting gas in your car, right? You need positivity. You need positive emotion. You need to be able to convey that. And that's what we use as a tool for building fondness and admiration, where two people can look up to each other, just feel warm and loved.
What an interesting concept that the glue of the relationship really is positivity. You don't have to be an expert in relationships. You don't need a doctorate. And the way Rabbi Dr. Ari just said it was so perfect in a way. It was simple. It was positivity. It's shining the light on the other person. It very much connects, if you're drawing the connection here to the Cowlins and to Rabbi Goldwich, this idea that there's someone else in my life, and the more I am shining positivity on the person, small or large, in my head, I'm building a certain glue in that relationship. I don't have to be an expert at a relationship. I just have to be positive. An incredible concept that 20-1 was massive, or even 5-1. We should think about that when we go through our day, even if we're having a hard time. How many things do I say positively versus negatively to the person that I'm married to, or my children, or my friends? because it is that positivity that really becomes the glue of the relationship. Okay, speaking of positivity, let's compete. Might as well. Kahoot time. For those that are joining us for the first time, don't just go on your computer. You can just use your phone and go to the Kahoot app. If you've got another device, go to kahoot.it and plug in this code 3283436, 3283436. You get it all different ways. So whether it's on your app or another device or on your phone, just let's play Kahoot. Let's compete a little bit. If we get some positivity for like 5 more minutes, then we'll get back to that. Okay, while we get the people lining up, I want to give a couple more shout outs to Josephine from Phoenix, Arizona, Shabbat Shalom. Mendel Davis from Baltimore, Shabbat Shalom. Rivka Mansour, Shabbat Shalom. Linda Leland from Boston, Shabbat Shalom. From Jen in Georgia. Eric, Elisa, and Barley. And the Wonder Puppy from Fairlawn, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to Stacy now 11 Rand from Maryland. Shabbat Shalom, thank you for your kind words. Eric Hirsch, my good friend, Shabbat Shalom. To the Diamond family in Lakewood, New Jersey. I was there this afternoon. Lakewood, New Jersey. What a great place. Shabbat Shalom. Loey in Denver, Colorado. To Alana Loey. Alana Loey in Denver, Colorado. Shabbat Shalom. Everybody continue to put in the Kahoots. We're going to wait a couple more seconds to get everybody on. Of course, my mom. Please, mommy, get on. Every week we make sure that my mom gets on. That's part of my responsibility as her son. Shabbat Shalom to Mike Skolnick from St. Louis. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom to Linda Leland. And let's give it 1 more minute before we get started here. Just give it 10 more seconds. I just want to go to Facebook for 1 more second. You know what? Let's get started. People are coming on, but you know what? Let's roll. To my team from Project Inspire, let's begin. How do you say married in Hebrew? Ke'ev Rosh, gosh. Kidashta, Nasui, or Harbe Kesef? For those who speak Hebrew, I hope you're finding the sarcasm in here. Ke'ev Rosh, Kidashta, Nasui, or Harbe Kesef. Or used to have Harbe Kesef, maybe. Michelle Revivo, Shabbat Shalom to you, and thank you for a great show last week. Joey Kantrowitz, Shabbat Shalom from Suffern, New York. Okay, here goes. First answer. Nasui, very good. A couple people actually said Koev Rosh, which means a headache. And there are people that said Harbe Kesef. So the answer was Nasui. Nasui is married in Hebrew. Let's see how we placed. First round. Avigdor Novik, silver. Rachel, that's probably a Rachel. Jamie's mom is on the board. Another Rachel. Wow, Rachel's taking it over here. Okay, let's go the second question. Where does Israel rank in the world rating of marriages per capita? First, 10th, 30th, or 60th? Marriage per capita. To the Pomeranz family in Sandy Springs, Georgia, Shabbat Shalom. Lily in Quebec. Risa and Brian Wolf, Oak Park, Michigan, Shabbat Shalom. Alana Trokel from Great Neck, Shabbat Shalom. Yes, Linda's question. Ari and Svi are brothers, a dominant family they are. I'm sure their parents are shepping much nachashim. Here goes the answer. The answer is 10th. Good answer. Good guess for those who don't know. How would you know that? But great guess. Lots of Jews in there. Rachel steps up. Mike comes to the board. AJS. Winner, Hannah. And the Edison Adlers are now on the board. Okay, let's go to the third question. Number 3. Which country has the youngest average age of marriage at 20 years old for men and 17 for women? Iran, Niger, maybe that was Nigeria, Yemen, or Zimbabwe? The youngest marriage, guys at 20, the ladies are 17. Iran, Niger, probably Nigeria, Yemen, or Zimbabwe. Michelle and Troy Zukowski, Surlin, Shabbat Shalom to you. Murray Levy, Shabbat Shalom to you as well. And the answer is Niger. Wow. Interesting. You see, you learn things new every single time here. Let's see how we did on the board. I love how the board. Oh, wow. Joe steps in, and Rachel stays on the board with Mike and AJH with the winner, Hannah, on. Okay, fourth and final question. What percentage of Israelis are married by 25? 10, 33, 50, or 70? Bet Zuckerbrow from Smithtown, Shabbat Shalom. Jonathan Rudman, yes, Shabbat Shalom to you. Let's go back to Israel together. I'm in. Esther Willinger, Shabbat Shalom from Toronto. Shabbat Shalom to you. Yochevet Yehonatan from Great Neck. Shabbat Shalom. Adina Kirshner from Bergenfield. Samantha Gutman from Pennsylvania. Aaron Jordan from Englewood. Shabbat Shalom to you guys. Dubi Hach from Montreal. Shabbat Shalom. The answer is 50% of Israelis are married at 25. Interesting stat. 50%. Let's see how we ended. Number 3, San. Congratulations. Welcome to the board. I think the first time I've seen you. Number 2, Gibbs. We've seen you before, Gibbs. The number 1. And the winner is AJH. AJH. Congratulations. With our runner-ups, please feel free to tap in and email projectinspired.com to get your gifts. And now it is time for the one and only Jamie Geller. Check it out.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. It's so good to see you again. So since we're talking about marriage this episode, I thought I'd tell you a cute little story about when hubby and I first got married. So before I got married, I'm this single girl, TV producer, living in Manhattan, working long days. I use my oven for storage. I never turn the thing on. I do takeout and delivery for everything. And if I'm going to cook, it's going to be like a big salad for dinner, maybe even yogurt and fruit. And so I get married and I'm thinking about adding that to the menu for hubby for dinner. And he's like, what? So I thought I'd share this recipe with you because it marries my favorites, which is like lettuce for dinner with possibly even some fruit in there, one of my favorites. And for hubby, it's got the chicken. Now I know plenty of women love chicken salads, and of course, it's just something a little bit more substantial that was hubby friendly for my hubby. And it was just a dish that we could come together on. So it's something I love to share. Now you could also make this with skirt steak. That would be delicious and that would beef it up. So before I say Shabbat Shalom to you, I wanted to say hi to my parents. They're always watching. I feel like, old school when people used to get on the news and be on TV, they're like, hi, Mom. So hi, Mom. And love to you all. Please ask any questions. Always make sure you're tuning in on time because at the beginning of the show is when I answer your cues about this week's recipe. So have an amazing Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom. And until next week, see you later.
Jamie, as always, amazing and excellent. You could always check out more Jamie stuff at jamiegeller.com. She's on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, at Jamie Geller or at Julius by Jamie. What an incredibly important part of our show. And thank you, Jamie. Our next guest is a wonderful person. Tamara Livingstone is on with us. Tamara spent the past 15 years working in Jewish education, including co-founding a nonprofit together with her husband. She teaches bridal and marital education courses, and she's passionate about empowering couples to build close, positive relationships. She currently lives in Baltimore with her husband and 3 daughters and loves reading, connecting with people, and sharing the relevance of Jewish wisdom to modern times. Tamar, welcome to the show. You're still on mute. Perfect. We got you now.
Sorry. Thanks so much for having me, Charlie.
It is an honor to have you. I got to tell you, first of all, before we even get started, the chat here is sort of lighting up with how much people love you in Baltimore, that is. So just letting you know, we're getting a lot of love in the chat. Just
Hi,
letting you know, live feedback, what's going on. Thank you for what you do. And
so great.
And so, we're dealing with a challenging time. And I know that this is something that you care about a lot. Challenges that couples go through.
Yeah.
What do you find that are some of the biggest challenges that couples face today? And how do couples navigate that properly?
Yeah, it's a great question. So today in particular, I'm finding that a lot of couples are dealing with this myth that seems to be very popular and seems to be crashing in front of their eyes. And that's the myth that when people love each other, they should want to spend every minute of every day together.
Hmm.
You know, so many couples are, you know, cooped up at home, quarantined, working remotely, spending more and more time together these days than they ever have before. And they're faced with these complicated feelings of feeling like, I love my spouse, but I don't love every minute of every day being together, not having any privacy and not having a minute to think to myself. And people are kind of like, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with my husband? Do we have a terrible marriage? What's happening? And no, nothing's wrong with you and nothing's wrong with your husband. It's a myth. That is just not true. Relationships are not meant to be so close in such close quarters all the time. There's meant to be this natural ebb and flow where people leave and come back and go out and come back and have different interactions with different people to come share with. You're not meant to be the only end all be all for your spouse. It's unrealistic and unnatural. And I think dealing with that myth is causing a lot of, you know, harsh, rude awakenings for people.
I can totally see that. In fact, I've been reading articles about couples making drastic moves, and I think all they really need is like an hour to themselves, and they're like, well, what's going I could totally. And by the way, kids are the same way, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone needs to breathe. And I think that's a very astute point that is critical that everybody understands. I want to delve into the fight, if you can take us through this a little bit, because this happens. There's conflict, there's fight. If you're in close quarters, people are stressed. When somebody is fighting with their spouse, what are the healthy ways to fight? What are the unhealthy ways to fight? And how does someone navigate that when you're in that mode?
Okay, sure. So let's go through like the concept of fighting a little bit, and then, you know, the theories, and then we'll get into the practical. So, you know, there's certain fights that every couple has, right? All couples seem to fight about in-laws, right? Does that ring a bell for anyone? Right?
Not me. I don't know what you're talking about.
When is your mother leaving? How come your parents never call me? How come your mom never comes to help with the kids? Those are some of the classic fights about in-laws. Another classic fight that couples often go through is about money, right? You bought what? You used which credit card? Why can't you get a better paying job? And then there's the fights about who does or doesn't do enough around the house, right? You left your socks on the floor again. You never have dinner ready on time. You forgot to take out the trash. The light bulbs have been burnt out for 4 months or since the beginning of quarantine. And then there are the other fights, the ones that seem worse. The ones that go something like, you never do anything nice for me. You never give me compliments. You don't know how to make me feel good. And I think what's happening is that we think we're fighting because we feel that our spouse is really the worst spouse out there. My husband is the worst. He's the most selfish. He's the most lazy. No one ever leaves light bulbs burnt out for as long as my husband does. He never does anything for me, right? We think the reason that we're fighting is because our husband or wife is just so fill in the blank, deficient, irresponsible, lazy, selfish. And our fights are so painful and hurt so badly that it often leaves us questioning our relationships. So what's really going on for us when these disagreements and arguments escalate into these explosions? How did we get here? How is it that the person we fell in love with, we're now yelling at for not changing light bulbs? What are we really fighting about? So I'm one of those people who seems to have a sign on her forehead that says, come talk to me. So, you know, those types.
Yeah.
So I was once on a plane and a man sitting across the aisle from me struck up a conversation with me about, you know, the baby I was holding in my lap, and he proceeded to show me pictures of his baby on his phone. And then he started telling me about how he just got divorced, even though he only has a 6-month-old baby. And he said, I got divorced because I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I suppose if the goal of marriage is to be happy, then in his case, his marriage failed. It didn't meet the goal. He wasn't happy. So divorce made sense. But what if happiness isn't the goal of marriage? Jewish wisdom offers us an incredibly profound perspective on the concept of marriage and what it's all about. You see, the first married couple, Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve, were created as one attached human being. Weird, I know. They were both male and female conjoined. And then God looked at them and said, Lo tov hayos adam levado. It isn't good for man to be alone. So God split them into two halves, a male and a female. And he then instructed them to become one flesh. He instructed them to get married and to become one. So they started off as one. He separated them into two and charged them with the mission to become one again. And there's a lot of beautiful and deep lessons here, but for our purposes, we'll just focus on one of them. Our natural state, the way that we first came into the world, is as one connected unit. That sense of wholeness and of connection is hardwired into the spiritual DNA of every human being since the beginning of time. And the goal and purpose of marriage is to reconnect these two halves as God charged us with the mission of becoming one flesh again. This is what we're searching for in our marriages, this connection, this wholeness. Does connection often come with happy feelings? Absolutely. But does it always? No. The road to connection is full of challenges, ups and downs, upsets, hurt feelings, and all kinds of trials. The goal of marriage isn't to be happy. The goal is to be close and connected, and happiness will be a byproduct of that closeness. The need for connection is actually so primal of a need that research shows that when we sense this lack of connection, our brains treat this as a danger cue. So meaning our internal alarm system goes firing off and we start to panic when we sense that our connection isn't strong. So for those of you who have kids who are home on Zoom school and you're also working from home, all sharing the same Wi-Fi, and you see on your screen, it starts saying weak signal, you start to panic because you're about to get hung up from a super important business meeting. Your kids are going to get disconnected from school. That sort of like panic that sets in. That's what happens to us when we see the sign that our connection to our spouse is weakening. It's that weak signal, and we start to panic. Our bodies actually play out the spiritual truth that being alone is not good for us. Our bodies know that something's wrong when we're not connected. So therefore, the underlying thread of all conflicts, everything that we're fighting about, whether it's the light bulbs or the bills that aren't getting paid, is the fear of disconnection. We so badly need to be connected that when we sense our connection is weak, it's what throws us into chaos. And this terrifies us. So to answer your question about healthy fighting, I think what we need to realize when we're fighting is, what are we really fighting about? Is it annoying that the light bulbs are burnt out? Of course, sure, you can express that. That's totally valid. But we aren't fighting about the light bulbs. We're fighting because we think our partner isn't taking our feelings and our concerns seriously. We feel that we're not being heard. We feel that our connection is weakening. And that's what sends us into this tizzy and this panic.
Very good. I hear that totally. I think it's a great point. This idea of connection and really understanding the difference in each of these feelings. Wow. Tamar, thank you so much for joining us. What an incredible insight. And what a way to close the show by really connecting the other side of seeing the expansion of self, really, which is, it's not the expansion of self now that you said it. It's really the search to reconnect to self and to become one. Really appreciate it. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for shining your light on the world.
Thank you.
What an incredible point. And I want to just make sure that's clear. And it's so powerful if you think about it. This idea that the real goal of what we're after in life is not happiness, it's unity. That's the game. And by the way, there's a secret that we say every day, the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The last word Echad is not just that God is one, God is unity. Spirituality is unity. Two bodies can be living in the same house, but two souls are cleaving to be one again. Families are cleaving to be one. Communities are cleaving to be one. This idea of expansion of self really is not like this. It's like this, right? You're searching to connect to more. And I think when you see it this way, the way Tamar just said, I thought was great. What sends us crazy is the lack of connection, not the lack of happiness, the power that we have in trying. And it's not always happy. It's sometimes very challenging, but it's the greatest thing in the world. Check out this beautiful video that we have about two people that really found a very interesting connection.
You know, many times they're being asked, how does it feel to be married 65 years? I said, it's wonderful.
all you could see was corpses around, you know, and I noticed this boy, I'll tell you. My brother was like in the same camp, and I recognized him because he was together in the same barrack, but I never spoke to him one word. But when I saw him lying on the ground, I said to my aunt and my friend and her sister, you know, he's still alive. We're going to try and nurse him back to health. And they said, Nancy, are you crazy? Can't you see he's dead? And I said, he's not dead yet. If we let him lie here, for sure will die. When I found him, he was like this, very, very thin and sick. So he was throwing up all the time. But after a week or 2 weeks, he said he needs a doctor. We went out to get some food. His mind was working good. So he crawled down from the bed. And the door was a little open. And the road was next to the door, like not a few steps. He laid himself on the road, and a military vehicle picked him up and took him to a military hospital. When we came back, we didn't know what happened to him. He wasn't there. So we were very upset, but we had to keep going, you know.
And when I heard the girl that saved my life arrived, naturally it was a big excitement for me. I come to the house that she was staying in. I knock on the door and I see this beautiful blonde girl opens up and she says, "It's you?"
I don't remember that, but
Yeah.
he says.
So I said, "Yeah, it's me." And at that point, my life started.
What an incredible story. What an incredible story about reconnecting, even in the harshest of places. Special Shabbat Shalom as we conclude, of course, to my wonderful sister who's watching and the entire Isaacson family who I love so much. To Michelle and Mark Mandelman, Shabbat Shalom to you. Kwam Rankley from Chad, Shabbat Shalom to you. And of course, to Debbie Rosalimsky, Shabbat Shalom from Teaneck. And really, this is what it's all about. This is the game of life. The game of life is the game of relationships. And relationships really are understanding that we are searching to be one with others, our spouse, our children, our families, our community. This idea that we have been separated physically, but spiritually we're searching for one. The expansion of self, the giving to the other as a way of fueling ourselves, spreading positivity, just positivity. And all of these concepts are steps in the way, really, of our own personal fulfillment. That's what relationships really are about, whether it's our marriage or others. Really, when it comes down to it, the greatest thing we can do for ourselves is be there for other people. And that's what Shabbat is about, because Shabbat is the time in which the treadmill slows down in life and the operational aspects of life slow down just enough that we can realize what's important. The people in our lives are important. God and a relationship with him is important. And as the operations and as all the transactions come to a slow, and that's what's going to happen now. We're in Thursday night into Friday, and then we're going to walk into a Shabbat. As we get into that space, it is the most perfect time for us to look around and realize what is worth investing in each other. So on behalf of me and mine, I want to wish you and yours a restful, peaceful, wonderful, thoughtful Shabbat. May this be the Shabbat where we appreciate what we have around us, where we realize that it is only when we give do we get. And the opportunity to shine light and to connect is of the most powerful that we can do in this world. May we see a time where we all connect and the whole world connects to the real truth. Maybe, just maybe, next week we'll get to see each other live from Jerusalem. But if not, I wish you a good weekend, a good Shabbos, a Shabbat Shalom. And I hope and pray that I get to see you again next week on the show. Shabbat Shalom.
Father, bring me back to you, back into your loving arms, back into your loving arms. I've gone so far, so me back.